There are secrets you never want to uncover, especially when they come at the most important moment in your life. A wedding on the horizon, love at its peak, but everything changes in an instant. When everything seems perfect, you stumble upon a brutal truth that exposes all the betrayal from those you trust most. This isn't just any story, it's a man's life caught between the hardest choice he'll ever make. What will he do when faced with betrayal right on his wedding day? This story will make you rethink trust and betrayal to the very core. Before continuing the story, tell me which city you are watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. My bride, her mother, sister, and two bridesmaids in white flannel robes were about to enjoy the sauna at the country hotel they had booked for her bachelorette party. I looked at it again. Maybe it was because they were wearing makeup, which was unusual. Before a sauna, but I guess understandable, when I noticed something, I could see my future mother-in-law's legs, and it turned out that she was wearing some kind of flesh-colored nylon stockings. Why on earth would she wear them to the sauna? It was quite a bit, but it seemed to me that something was wrong, and I headed to the hotel with a huge bouquet of flowers. My gut told me something was wrong, and I couldn't ignore it. I had to know the truth. So I made the decision to go to the hotel where they were staying, hoping to get some answers. I had no plan in mind, no idea what I would find, but the need for the truth was overwhelming. I arrived at the hotel pretending to be a delivery person, carrying a bouquet of flowers, just as a cover to get inside. I approached the front desk, asked for the name of the room, and made my way up to where they were staying. When I knocked on the door, I was greeted by Sarah, one of Amanda's bridesmaids. There was a moment of hesitation before she opened the door completely, revealing the scene inside. Please comment number 1 so that I can know that you liked the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support is a great inspiration and encouragement for us. Thank you very much. The room was filled with music and voices, but it wasn't just women in the room. There were 2 men sitting on the couch, clearly at ease, chatting and laughing with Amanda's sister Jessica and the other bridesmaid. It took a moment for them to realize I wasn't just a flower delivery person, but their faces went pale when they saw me. I didn't speak, only handed the flowers to Sarah and walked past her into the bedroom. That's when I saw it. My mother-in-law, wearing those same strange stockings, was in bed with a man young enough to be her son. I couldn't believe my eyes, but the photo I took on my phone confirmed the horrifying reality. She screamed when she saw me, but I didn't stay long. I moved into the next room, and that's when I saw my bride. She was in bed with another man, the very man who had been invited to what was supposed to be a celebration of our love. It was all too much to process. I quickly snapped another photo, my hands shaking as I tried to make sense of what was happening. I couldn't understand how this could be real. It wasn't just one betrayal. It was a web of lies, deceit, and heartbreak. I had always trusted these people, believed in the promises they made, but now I was left standing in the wreckage of my shattered world. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I grabbed the photos on my phone and left the hotel as quickly as I could. I knew that there was no going back, that nothing would ever be the same again. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and messages, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I had seen enough. My decision was made. The wedding was off. Her father was furious when I said the wedding was off. He shelled out $10,000, but it didn't matter once he saw his wife's photo. The bridesmaids' husbands were equally dismayed by the news. We really appreciate you liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support is a great inspiration and encouragement for us. Thank you so much. The moment I discovered the truth, my world fell apart. I had always believed in love, in the sanctity of marriage, in the commitment that was supposed to bind 2 people together forever. I had spent years dreaming of the day when I would stand beside my bride, exchanging vows and promises for a lifetime of happiness. But little did I know the very foundation of what I had built my future upon was crumbling before my eyes. It started with a simple photo. At first, I dismissed it as nothing more than a harmless update, a simple social media post. But there was something about it that nagged at me, something that didn't sit right. I had always trusted Amanda, my fiancée. She was the woman I had chosen to spend the rest of my life with. She had been everything I thought I wanted, beautiful, intelligent, and caring. But that trust, that unshakable belief in her, was shattered in the blink of an eye. The photo was of her, her mother, her sister, and two bridesmaids, all together in white robes, getting ready for what was supposed to be a celebratory event, her bachelor party. But as I looked closer, something caught my eye. There was a detail that stood out, something that seemed out of place. Amanda's mother was wearing flesh-colored stockings, an odd choice for a sauna. Why would she wear those while relaxing in a sauna? My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. I didn't want to believe it, but something told me there was more to this picture than met the eye. I couldn't go through with it. No one should ever have to endure what I had just witnessed. And yet, Amanda and her mother managed to track me down. They must have known the truth was coming, but their apologies meant nothing to me. I had heard it all, the apologies, the excuses, the reasons why they did what they did. But none of it mattered. None of it could undo what had already been done. The ex-mother-in-law was the most persistent of them all, calling me relentlessly, trying to explain herself. She said it was her last hurrah before starting married life, that she needed to get it out of her system. But that didn't make sense. Her behavior was nothing short of betrayal, and she seemed to have no remorse for it. She justified her actions as if it were somehow acceptable. It wasn't just a moment of weakness, it was a deliberate choice. I had never been so disgusted in my life. And then came the ultimate slap in the face. Amanda, in her desperation to explain herself, told me, "It looks like you did this too before the wedding, but I see that you are still cheating." Those words hit me like a freight train. She tried to shift the blame onto me, as if I was somehow responsible for your husband after 25 years of marriage. The mother taught her daughter, I think. But she loves you. I doubt it. In any case, I think you should be concerned about something completely different. What do you mean? You said? Of course. And Tom was throwing your things out on the lawn when I left. Apparently, a group of chickens met a group of deer. They got along, and my mother-in-law turned out to be especially popular among the younger. Guys, my wedding failed and 4 other marriages were on the verge of divorce. My future father-in-law said that the booked place and a lot of drinks had already been paid. No refunds were expected. When he and I invited all the male guests, each of my friends and those guys whose wives cheated, it was the most epic failure of our lives. Recovery took a week. There was a lot of moaning and begging, but all 4 divorces were successful. It was strange to feel that, unlike others, I was lucky. I didn't have to worry about alimony or division of property. As soon as the rumors began to spread, all women were treated as easily available women. There were many offers of dates for a quickie, but no chance of a long-term relationship. Yes, there was such a film, for weddings and a funeral. Well, but here it turned out to be 4 divorces and a quarrel. Before everything collapsed, Amanda and I had a dreamlike life. She was the person I trusted the most, the one I thought would walk beside me for the rest of my life. In the early days when we first met, everything was truly beautiful. I still vividly remember the first evening we went for a walk together after meeting at a mutual friend's party. She wore a simple white dress, her long hair flowing naturally, and her smile lit up the dark night. I still remember the look in her eyes as we talked, her gentle smile and warm voice, making me feel like the world consisted of just the 2 of us. And Kevin, have you ever thought about the future? Amanda asked me one breezy afternoon as we sat on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore. The future? I looked at her and shrugged. I think about it, but I've never really worried about it. What can we do other than live fully in the present, right? Amanda looked at me and smiled. You're really different from other men I've met. You're not rushing, not thinking about far-off plans. You just want to live, and that makes me feel safe. With Amanda, everything was always easy, natural. She always created a relaxing atmosphere whenever we were together, from simple walks to adventurous trips. I felt like I had found my perfect other half. We shared so many beautiful moments together. Our trips, quiet evenings, just the 2 of us, times when we sat down and shared everything in our lives, especially those mornings when I would see Amanda in a simple nightgown, her hair all messy after a deep sleep. She would always look at me with those tender eyes, making me feel more alive than ever before. The day we decided to get engaged, I felt like I had achieved everything I had ever dreamed of. The wedding plans were in full swing, everything was going according to plan, and I told myself that nothing could break our happiness. "You'll be the happiest man in the world," I would often say to her. "We'll build an amazing future together." I once thought everything would always be like that beautiful love would last forever. But everything changed too quickly. The betrayal, the lies, were a shock that I couldn't even begin to imagine. From sweet moments, we turned to arguments, to terrifying silences. Everything seemed to crumble in an instant. I couldn't understand why she changed like that. The one person I trusted, the one I thought would always stand by my side in the hardest moments, became the one who forced me to face unbearable pain. All the beautiful memories seemed to fade away, and leaving no trace. I tried to hold on to those happy moments in my mind, but every time I looked back, I just saw emptiness. And then I had to face the truth. Questions with no answers, vague excuses, meaningless apologies. Everything inside me shattered, and there was no way to piece it back together. I had to accept that everything had changed, and there was no going back to the way it was before. The memories of those beautiful days were now nothing more than painful recollections. The memories of the times we laughed, holding hands while walking through the streets, now only brought sorrow and regret. We were once happy, but now everything was just broken pieces that couldn't be mended. After the wedding was called off, I didn't just lose the woman I loved, but I also witnessed the collapse of marriages around me. The divorces followed one after another, and no one could have predicted how deeply they would affect us all. Every man from the wedding, friends, husbands of the cheated brides, had to face the consequences. I remember one evening when some friends and I were sitting together trying to figure out why all this happened. Tom, an old friend of mine, said, "Kevin, it seems like we've all been deceived, but maybe our lives aren't over. We can still start over, even if everything's fallen apart." I looked at Tom and sighed. "I don't know, Tom. Everything I used to believe in is now gone. But maybe you're right. I need to accept the change and keep moving forward." That night, we discussed the divorces and the pain everyone was going through. But none of us really found an answer to betrayal or the hurt we were all carrying. Everything felt like a never-ending spiral. The next morning, I received a message from my ex-mother-in-law. She apologized and said she was deeply sorry for what had happened. She even sent me an old photo, a picture of her and her husband before life got complicated. I didn't know what to do with the photo, but one thing was clear. I didn't want to go back to what we had. Kevin, my ex-mother-in-law, wrote, "I understand if you can't forgive us, but I hope you'll find peace in your heart. That's all we want." I sighed, thinking about everything that had happened. I ignored her apology, not because I didn't want to forgive, but because I needed time to heal and move on. Life would never be the same, but maybe I'd find happiness again, even though the road ahead was still long. Each day passed, and it felt like I was living in a fog. I could no longer find joy in the little things that once made me happy. Everything now felt like a series of painful memories I couldn't erase. It seemed like every step was a challenge. Every day, another battle to keep living in the shadow of the past. But sometimes I told myself I had to be strong. What happened had already happened, and I couldn't change anything, but at least I could control how I reacted to it. The only thing I could change was myself. I had loved once, and now I needed to learn how to love myself again, how to forgive what happened, and keep moving forward even though the wound was still fresh. I started trying to do things I had forgotten over the years. Old hobbies I once enjoyed, books I hadn't read in a long time, walks I hadn't taken. I began to open myself to simple things, small moments that gave me a sense of peace. I couldn't go back to how things were, but at least I could find comfort in the little things in my life. Gradually, I realized that the people around me, the friends who had always been there, were my biggest source of support. They didn't judge me, they didn't give me false advice, but they were there, listening and sharing with me. They helped me understand that life went on, no matter how hard or painful, and I couldn't let the past shape the rest of my life. One day I got a call from an old friend I hadn't been in touch with for a while. He asked me to meet him, saying he had something to share. When I arrived at the cafe, he was already waiting. He looked worried, like he was trying to find the right words to say. "Kevin," he started, "I know you've been through a lot, but I want to tell you something. There's something you don't know about Amanda. Before she met you, she had a past no one knows about. I stared at him in surprise, not understanding what he meant. What past? What are you trying to say? He paused for a moment, then continued. Amanda had a relationship with another man, someone you would never expect. That's why she's always felt anxious and haunted. And maybe that's part of the reason behind the decision she made later. His words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I felt like everything I had believed in was crashing down. A past? A past I never knew about? So where is this man now? I asked, struggling to take in what I was hearing. He looked at me with concern in his eyes. The man is gone. A tragic accident no one could have foreseen happened, and your mother-in-law kept it all a secret. She never wanted anyone to know about him, and it haunted her for the rest of her life. I was speechless. Everything suddenly felt unclear. Was everything I knew about my ex-mother-in-law and her family really the truth? Or was it just part of a bigger story, a secret that had been buried for years? I couldn't find an answer, and I knew I would never get a clear one. What I had discovered only made me more confused, and I began to wonder if everything had been manipulated from the very start. All the untold secrets, the unresolved situations, they all painted a complicated picture that I would never fully understand. That phone call didn't just shock me. It made me start questioning everything that had happened. The truths I hadn't known, the secrets that people around me had kept hidden, all seemed to be slowly revealing themselves. But nothing was clear. I didn't know what to do with this new information. Should I dig deeper or simply move on and leave it all in the past? The answer was still unclear, and perhaps I would never discover all the secrets behind this story. My life now felt like an unfinished puzzle, a story with no conclusion. All I knew was that I could never go back to how things were, but would I ever find peace in my life? Only time would tell. After that huge shock, when everything around me crumbled, it took me quite a while to find myself again. For many nights I woke up in nightmares. The images of her, of my mother-in-law, the people I had once trusted, kept haunting my mind. But one day I realized that I couldn't live in that darkness forever. I had to stand up, no matter how shattered everything around me was. In the early days after the incident, I couldn't even think about loving anyone again. All I saw was betrayal, lies, broken promises. She, my mother-in-law, her sister, they all changed, and I felt abandoned in a world where nothing made sense anymore. But once again, I couldn't just live like that. I began asking myself whether I had been wrong to trust these relationships so much, or if I had been too weak to see the signs before. One day, I decided to take a walk in the park, a way to clear my mind and also to reflect on everything that had happened. It was there that I ran into an old friend, Tom. He had always been there for me in hard times, and now he was the one helping me see things differently. Kevin, I know it's tough, but you can't keep living in the past, Tom said, his voice calm and serious. Life moves on, and you need to start looking ahead. I know you can't forget what happened, but you also need to change the way you see yourself and the people around you. I sighed. I don't know what to do anymore, Tom. Everything I believed in is gone. I feel like a fool, and I can't trust anyone anymore. Tom looked at me with the knowing expression, as if he had expected me to say this. Kevin, you're not a fool. You're just searching for the truth and have been hurt. But not everyone betrays you, and not everyone wants to hurt you. You need to trust yourself first. His words hit me like a shock, but it was a necessary shock. Yes, I needed to trust myself. I couldn't let the pain and betrayal control my life. The key was learning to forgive, but not forgiving those who hurt me, but forgiving myself for trusting too much, for letting myself get hurt. From then on, I began to reassess my relationships. I no longer placed unrealistic expectations on others, but instead, I learned to appreciate myself first. The people around me, whether they were friends or family, no longer had such a strong influence on my emotions. Instead, I began focusing on what I could control, myself and the decisions I made. I started reconnecting with old hobbies I had forgotten over the years, like reading books, traveling, or simply walking in the park every morning. I felt like a new person, stronger and more confident. Although the past was still a part of me, it no longer controlled me. I no longer allowed the painful memories to shape my life. A while later, I met another woman. She wasn't like the ones I had loved before, but she had a special charm. We started talking and slowly became close. At first, I was cautious, not wanting to trust anyone again, but I realized that I needed to open up once more, even if it could hurt me. Eventually, I understood that love is a journey, and sometimes it has to start all over again. The biggest lesson I learned from this shock was that happiness isn't something that comes easily in life. It's a long journey filled with challenges. Relationships don't always bring joy, and sometimes we have to go through pain to grow. But if we know how to accept, learn, and change, we can find joy and peace in our lives again. After everything that had happened, I thought I understood it all. The images I had found in the hotel room, the secrets I had uncovered, and the betrayals that were beyond imagination. But there was one thing I hadn't expected. One thing that still puzzles me to this day. A secret that had been kept hidden for years, and it might just change everything I thought I knew about her family. After I decided to call off the wedding and cut ties with Amanda and her family, I went back to my life, though my heart still carried scars. I decided to ignore all their apologies because I knew no matter how much they explained, things could never go back to what they were. It seemed like her entire family had secrets, things they didn't want anyone to know. One day while I was cleaning my apartment, I accidentally came across an old box, one I didn't remember seeing before. It was hidden in a corner, buried under a pile of old books, and when I opened it, I realized it contained old photos, letters, and some documents that I had never seen. One particular photo made me stop. It was a picture of my mother-in-law, looking very young, standing next to a man I didn't recognize. They were standing close together, holding hands, and they both looked incredibly happy. What was strange was that the man in the photo wasn't her husband, but someone completely unfamiliar. This photo was obviously taken before she met and married Amanda's father. I flipped the photo over and saw a short note. "The day we will never forget." A sense of unease crept over me. What could this photo reveal? And why had my mother-in-law kept it hidden? For the next several weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about that box and what I had discovered. I decided to look into it further. I began asking around, talking to people who might know something about my mother-in-law's past. One of her old friends, a woman I had met a few times before, finally told me a story I never could have imagined. "Kevin, I don't know what you've seen, but there's something you need to understand," the woman said. "Your mother-in-law is not the person you think she is. She has a very different past from what you know. The man in that photo was her lover before she met her husband. And the truth is, they didn't just love each other, they had a child together. A child you've never heard about." Her words hit me like a sledgehammer, and I felt as if everything I had believed in was collapsing. A child? A child I had never been told about? "So where is this child now?" I asked, unable to comprehend what I was hearing. She looked at me with concern in her eyes. "The child died, a tragic accident that nobody could have predicted, and your mother-in-law kept it a secret. She never wanted anyone to know about the child, and that has haunted her whole life." I was speechless. Everything suddenly felt unclear. Was everything I knew about my mother-in-law and her family really the truth? Or was it just part of a bigger story, a secret that had been buried for years? I couldn't find an answer, and I knew that I would never get a clear one. What I had discovered only left me more confused, and I started to wonder if everything had been manipulated from the start. All the untold secrets, the unresolved situations, they all painted a complex picture that I would never fully understand. The end of this story remains uncertain, and I know I'll never find the complete truth. The story is still unfinished, and perhaps I will never get a satisfying answer to everything that happened. After everything that had happened, I just wanted to find a quiet place, a place to escape from the chaos in my mind. The first few days after the shock, I didn't want to meet anyone. I just wanted to be alone to recover. But then life goes on, and I realized I couldn't keep avoiding everything. One afternoon when I was sitting alone in a small cafe in the city, I unexpectedly saw a woman walk in. She looked familiar. Long hair, bright eyes, but what surprised me the most was her smile. It was like a beam of light in the dark, something I hadn't seen in a long time. We didn't talk right away, but I noticed she was trying to get my attention. I didn't know why, but I felt a strange sensation, something I hadn't experienced in a while. It was the feeling of curiosity, of a new opportunity. "Hi there," she said, flashing a friendly smile. I was a bit surprised, but tried to stay calm. "Hi, is there something I can help you with?" "No, I just feel like I've seen you before," she replied, sitting down in the seat opposite me. "Your name's Kevin, right?" I stared at her for a moment, then realized, yes, I had met her once before, but it was under different circumstances, when I was still planning for the wedding. She was a friend of one of the people I invited to the wedding. But after the wedding was called off, I hadn't kept in touch with any of them. "Oh, I remember now," I said, not sure what to say next. She smiled, and her gaze was filled with concern. "I heard about what happened to you. I'm really sorry, but I believe you'll get through this." The discomfort began to rise in me again. I didn't want to hear any sympathy. I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me anymore. I just wanted to escape these feelings and start over. "Thanks," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady, "but I don't need sympathy." She looked at me as if she wanted to understand more about what I was going through. "I get it, but sometimes just a little encouragement, a little concern, can make things a bit easier." At that moment, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to refuse, but I couldn't, because in her, I felt something different, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. It was sincerity, a new connection that I couldn't avoid. After a while of silence, she smiled gently and said, "So why don't you let me help you relax a little? We could go for a walk or something. Just get out, change the air a bit." I hesitated. My mind was still full of exhaustion and anxiety, but eventually I nodded. "Okay, a walk sounds fine." And so we left the cafe. During the walk, we talked about many things. She didn't ask too much about my past. Instead, she told me about her life, her work, the little joys she found in her days. She didn't push me to open up, but I felt lighter as I listened to her stories. This relationship wasn't perfect, and I knew I wasn't ready to start something serious. But I couldn't deny that this encounter made me rethink a lot of things in my life. I began to think about new opportunities, about learning how to love again, and above all, about learning to open up to those around me. This encounter made me realize that no matter how tough life gets, the people around us, whether old friends or new ones, can be sources of encouragement, helping us see the light at the end of the tunnel. The story we've just explored is not just a tale of betrayal, but a profound and deeply moving lesson about trust, love, and loss. It reminds us of the fragility of relationships and how the things we cherish most can shatter in an instant. Life doesn't always go as planned, and sometimes the moments that seem happiest are the very ones when everything comes crashing down. We may feel like we have it all together, that the future is bright and everything is falling into place. But in reality, our sense of security is often more fragile than we think. Betrayal has a way of creeping in when we least expect it, and when it hits, it can feel like the ground is pulled out from under us. The truth always has a way of coming to light, no matter how much we try to hide or cover it up. The discovery of a liar in an act of betrayal may come as a shock, but often there are signs we ignore or brush aside because we're too afraid to face them. In this story, the truth is hidden behind innocent moments, and the revelation of the betrayal brings everything to a halt. It's a stark reminder that we should always trust our instincts, even when it's easier to look the other way. The pain of betrayal can be excruciating, but it is also one of the most powerful tools we have for personal growth. Sometimes in the depths of our heartache, we find the strength to stand up and reclaim what was taken from us. Through this story, we also realize that sometimes the decisions we make in pain are the very ones that allow us to break free from toxic relationships and rediscover ourselves. When everything is torn apart, we may find that we can rebuild stronger than ever. It's often in the darkest moments that we discover our true strength and resilience. This is a journey of transformation, moving from despair to empowerment, from feeling trapped in a cycle of betrayal to breaking free and finding the courage to move forward. It's a reminder that while we can't control the actions of others, we have the power to control our own reactions and shape our own future. Remember, no matter how harsh life gets, each person has the ability to rise above and rebuild from the ruins. No matter how deep the wound, we are capable of healing and emerging stronger on the other side. It's not the betrayals or the setbacks that define us, but how we respond to them. Every setback can be a setup for a comeback. In the face of pain, we can choose to let it define us, or we can use it as a stepping stone to become the best version of ourselves. It's not about avoiding pain or hardship, because those are inevitable parts of life, but about how we navigate through them, grow from them, and ultimately thrive in spite of them. If this story made you think, if it resonated with you on some level, then you're not alone. Many of us have experienced moments of betrayal, loss, and heartbreak. And it's in these moments that we need to remember that we're capable of much more than we think. If you want to hear more emotional tales, intense situations, and unexpected twists, don't forget to subscribe to the Betrayed and Broken channel. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all of our latest videos that explore the complexities of love, trust, and the human experience. We strive to bring you stories that are raw, real, and relatable. Stories that speak to the heart and remind us all that we're not alone in our struggles. Hit the like button and share this story with anyone you think may need it. Sometimes all it takes is for one person to hear a story like this to help them feel seen, heard, and understood. You never know who might be going through something similar, and by sharing, you could make a difference in their life. We encourage you to be part of this community of support, where we can all learn from each other, grow together, and find strength in our shared experiences. Life can be tough, but when we stand together, we become stronger. We look forward to joining you in every chapter of life's journey. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. We are so grateful to have you as part of our community, and we promise to continue bringing you meaningful content that encourages, uplifts, and inspires. Your support means everything to us, and we can't wait to share more stories, lessons, and experiences with you. Stay tuned for what's coming next. We're just getting started.